Yo, hello, my name is Wesbam and welcome to another V4 tutorial. Today I want to talk about a special node called ApplyTransform. That is ApplyTransform with two P's. ApplyTransform transform. The quickest way to show you what it does is by going to the help file. So I select the node and I press F1. And here is the help file. What we see here are some green dots and some blue dots. The green points are created over here, are the original points, and they got their X and Y position from these random spreads. And the blue dots over here are connected to an ApplyTransform. Now, keep in mind, we are transforming values. We are not transforming the actual object, but only its location. If we click on the renderer, you can see over here it's a GDI renderer. So we cannot put a quad or a pillow on here. The point node is a GDI object. And there is no input for a transform or a texture or anything fancy. We can only change the X and Y location, the color and the way it looks. The ApplyTransform takes X coordinates, Y coordinates and Z coordinates. And then, using normal transformation nodes, we can manipulate these values. It's like a wicked way of mapping. I can delete this transform and make a scale node, scale transform, and connect that to the ApplyTransform. And now I can make my blue points wider or higher. And again, please keep in mind we are transforming values here. The output of this node are values. And of course, you wonder why you would do that. I mean, why would you transform the values if you might as well can transform the object right away? Well, let's ignore the fact that we now have a way to use transform nodes on GDI rendered stuff. Most of us don't use GDI anyway. So let's close this help file and look at an example I have prepared. So I middle mouse click and I pick close and I don't want to save it. Okay, I have set up this little patch. It's just 7 quads in a circle. Nothing special, we have done this before. And I even colored them for you so we can keep track on what quad is what quad. The only values I have changed are the IO boxes with the names in it. So if you want to duplicate this patch, just make the nodes and only make connections to the IO boxes that have names on it. We have done this before, it's not really hard. Now, did you guys know that if I delete a spread generator, so I select it all and hit the delete key, the IO boxes that it was connected to will remember the values. So this output X IO box will still have the 7 values of the spread in it. Okay, now I want to make this circle a bit bigger and I want to rotate it. The easiest way to do that is to connect an other transform to this transform. So I double left click and type in transform and let's make another transform 2D. And we can connect it to the transform. And now I can use this transform to move my circle to the left or to the right, or we can even rotate it if we want to. But look what happens when I change the scale X value. So I right click and I drag up. Now my circle is getting wider, but as you can see, I am also stretching my quads. And if I now rotate it, it looks even more weird. Now, in an ideal scenario, I would have tweaked the values of my circular spread. And that is the reason why I deleted it. Just pretend that these values are not coming from a standard vvvv spread generator. We could of course do some complicated math to scale my X here and then compensate it over here. But it's way easier to use the ApplyTransform node. Let's connect the output X to the X untransformed, output Y to Y untransformed, and then for the output we are going to connect X transformed to translate X and Y transform to translate Y. Now I'm going to delete this connection for this transform, and as you can see, by default the ApplyTransform doesn't do anything, and that's cool. But now we can connect the transform node to this. And now it looks a bit weird because I already played with these values. So a quick way to reset your node is by holding down the Alt key and then right click on your node. And that will reset your node back to its default values. And if I now play with the scale, so I left click, middle click, middle click, I am only changing the scale for the translate X and the translate I values. So my quads remain the same shape. And if I was to rotate this, so left click, middle click, I am only rotating the positions and not the quads. And if I wanted to rotate the quads, I can still do that with the other transform. Now, the nice part is we got the position of the actual quads. So we can use these values as well. For example, I can switch all the quads black that are on the right side of the screen, just like we did before. In other words, if the X position is smaller than 0, we get a boolean 1, and we can connect this boolean 1 to the value node of the HSV. So in other words, if my quads are on the right side of the screen, we are making them black. And if I now rotate my quads position, I will only see the quads that are on the left side. Well, let's make it a bit cooler with a damper node. Well, you get the idea, we've done this before. I just put a damper in between, it's an animation filter. And if I now rotate my quads, you see they slowly fade in and fade out. And yeah, that's it for me. I hope you learned what the ApplyTransform node does and how to use it in a real life setting. Thanks again for watching. My name